Hello. So today I'm going to answer questions that have come in about where and how you should be marketing, what should be in a marketing plan, how you can go about reducing costs for paid media, and then finally some creative ways to get out and create partnerships and get out to consumers. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have marketing and sales questions, I have answers. Here's how this works. First, you record your number one marketing or sales question. Second, you send it to me as an audio file. And finally, I answer it for you for free. My name's Orren Prunckun, and welcome to my show.
Hi, Orren. It's Christine here. So my question is, a brand new service, a niche product or service that nobody else is doing. So nobody knows about it, therefore they don't know to look for it, Google search or whatever. Where and how is the best way to market that kind of service in the most financially efficient way?
Hello. So I'm going to answer this question starting with the how and then go to the where. So with the how, what you really want to do is be able to reveal to someone that they actually have a problem and that problem is worth solving. But the thing is, obviously, they're unaware and they don't know what their problem is. So I'll give you an analogy. So let's just pretend there's a person, they're walking around in a really fancy suit and they've just gone to the toilet and they've got this really long sheet of toilet paper hanging off the back of their shoe. Now they're trying to look $1 million, they're walking around trying to look really good, but everyone else can see they've got this strip of toilet paper hanging behind them and they can't see it. Now, obviously they're unaware that they have a problem. So what any decent and kind person would do would be go up to them and say, hey, look, you've got this bit of toilet paper hanging behind you. And at that moment, that person has had that problem revealed to them. They didn't realize that they had a problem and it's been revealed to them. So now they're problem aware and now they're also aware of you. And hopefully because you did it in a really nice way, they also like you. So they've gone from not knowing you to knowing you and liking you all in one fell swoop. And you can see this in a million different scenarios. Someone's drinking alcohol and they've been told that a couple of drinks a night is healthy for you, but for example, some new research may have come out to say that anything over one drink a night is unhealthy, and they thought they were doing the right thing, but now it turns out that they're not, or they're a couple kilos overweight and they're still within the BMI index, but their weight is still an issue, but they think because they're in the BMI index it's fine. So really what you have to do is make them known to the problem that's happening. The other thing that comes to mind is asbestos. Asbestos used to be great. Everyone used to roll around on it, and then people started dying and they said, oh, asbestos is not so good for people anymore. So on that, making people aware, there's this thing called the Johari Window, and that Johari Window is kind of like the best analogy I can give you verbally is picture a pie chart, and the pie chart is divided into 3 slivers, and 2 of those slivers are really, really tiny, and 1 of those slivers is really, really big. And the sliver that's really, really big, let's just say it takes up 98% of the pie chart. That's all the things we don't know. And then the other 2 slivers are, let's just say, for example, 1% each. So one of those 1% are all the things that we know. And look, I know how to talk and speak in the English language. I know how to cook. I know how to change my sheets, for example. Now, the remaining 1% is what we know we don't know. So I know that I don't know how to speak Mandarin Chinese, right? And what you're trying to do as a business owner is move all of the information that person doesn't know they don't know, so the person in the suit with the toilet paper, moving all of that information into one of those other categories. So you're moving some of the stuff that's in the 98% into 1% of what they know they now know. And one of the best ways to do that is to tell a story. It's kind of like a Trojan horse. Like no one, when they're a kid, likes their parent going up to them and saying, you shouldn't do this. But if the parent says or explains a story about something that happened to them or happened to a friend of theirs, all of a sudden you're not getting told what to do, and the lesson gets instilled in them. The other way, especially with the example I gave you of asbestos, is research is really powerful. But the thing is, when you're doing this stuff, so we're kind of in that how section already, when you're doing this stuff, you don't have a ton of time, because this person doesn't know you, and they don't like you, and it's the equivalent of going up to someone on the street and saying, hey, can I just talk to you for like an hour? Everyone's just going to look at you and say, get away from me, you freak. But if you go up to them and go, I just really want an opinion, and I'm only going to take 15 or 30 seconds of your time, most humans, most decent people are going to go, yeah, hey, no worries, that's fine. So however you're getting this story or this research or this mechanism to reveal a secret to this person's blind spot, it's got to be really, really short, because people just don't have time. And because they don't have time, and in combination that they don't like you yet, because they don't know you, you've really got to get it out quickly. Once you've revealed whatever that blind spot is and you've helped them out, they're obviously going to be grateful for you, because you're the equivalent of the person that's told them to get the toilet paper off their shoe. So you've gone, kind of a lot of the steps way through, overcoming some of the objections for selling. The last one you've got to really overcome is them trusting you. And depending on how you reveal that secret, you may get that trust, but you probably won't. So don't make the mistake of going in and trying to sell at this stage, because they just probably don't trust you yet. And obviously trust is built by making a promise and keeping your promise, and then doing that over and over again and demonstrating over time that you're a trustworthy provider. So don't fall into the mistake of selling them then and there. Just make them aware that they have a problem. Now that they are aware that they have a problem, the next logical thing for them is to say, well, now I know I have a problem, what solutions are out there? And that's where you come in to build some trust around, yeah, hey, there are solutions. We happen to be one of those, but there are all these other different types, and you build a bit of trust. And then when they're at the point of saying, hey, there are all these solutions, now I know what they are, your product is one of those, and then they can go into potentially choosing your product and becoming product aware, and then going on to be most aware, which becomes like a customer. So let's move on to where you actually go do that. So we've got markets and market sizes. So there's like 7 billion people on the planet, and not everyone is your customer. So your total addressable market is never 7 billion. You have to go to the next rung of market size underneath that. So your addressable, serviceable addressable market. So your SAM. So it's all of the people that may have that problem, and that's not 7 billion. And depending on what product you're selling or service you're selling, there's going to be a fraction of that 7 billion humans that just would never have the problem, even if they're unaware that they've got a problem for your product. So you've got to go down to the next rung of all the people that potentially could use your product if they became aware they had a problem. And they're the people that you should be targeting. It shouldn't be your target market, because they don't know you yet. So then it comes to the question of where those people are, and don't necessarily fall into the mistake of thinking it has to be online. Those people are everywhere. Online is just one channel. So absolutely could be offline. They could be found offline, but you really got to think about where that set of people congregate. And usually the channels you're going to find them through are either paid or earned media, not owned media. If you've got owned media, they already know you, they already like you, they're already in contact with you and can find you. So it's really about what paid channels and what earned channels you can use. So those paid channels are really going out to interrupt people in their day-to-day life. And that's what you're really doing when you're going up to the person with the hypothetical bit of toilet paper hanging off their shoe. Is you're going out and just to interrupt them. So paid media is probably going to be one of the really good channels that you need to look at. And same with earned media. They're going through and reading a blog or reading a newspaper or whatever, and then your information comes up, and it's an interrupt because they're not actually going about looking for that information, because they're not problem aware. So hopefully that answers your question, or at least gives you some clues of how you can tackle the where and the how of making people who are unaware of a problem aware of a problem, but also aware of you, so you can take them down that customer journey to help them out.
Hi, Orren, Michelle here. Having a sales and marketing plan and budget is clearly important when starting out. What would be your top 5 must-dos or must-haves in that plan for a startup in Adelaide?
This is a great question. So I'm just assuming, based on what you've given me, that you are a startup that is pre-revenue, not actually making any money. So I'm just going to take that as the assumption for your question. So the one thing that I'd be looking at currently with that position is I would be concentrating on a business model rather than a business plan. And I'm basing this on all of the work done by Steve Blank, so in the Lean Startup. And startups really are searching to find a correct business model, and then companies are then trying to execute on that business model. And companies are the ones that are creating plans. And from all of my experience that I've worked with startups over probably the last 5, 6, 7 years now, is that a lot of them have gone in with a lot of thinking around what a plan is, and they should just really be looking at a higher level model. So I'm really going to start kind of with that assumption. And what I would do is break it into 2 subcategories of what are you selling and how are you selling it. So in terms of what are you selling, I'll be looking at what places like McDonald's and Hungry Jack's do. So there's kind of an infamous case study that floats around the internet that costs, and I'm not going to get the figures right, but it costs McDonald's, let's say, $1 to acquire a customer. And what that customer does is they come in and they purchase this dollar product, usually a burger. And you can see, particularly in Australia, Hungry Jack's does this all the time. You notice every time you go past Hungry Jack's, they're going to have a big banner ad out the front of their physical locations just saying, $1 burgers or whatever. So they've got these $1 offers to entice you to come in. And then when you come in, you spend the dollar, but they basically make no profit off that. And then what they do, and if you notice, they're like, especially Hungry Jack's, to say, would you like that in a meal? So they try to upsell you to the meal. And then next minute, you've got chips and you've got a Coke. And if there's someone sitting next to you, they've got a meal, and then you've got the family meal, and you've got dessert, and then you drive out $40 later. So they make all of their money and their profit, particularly after that initial sale. So I'd really be concentrating on what you offer in terms of things like that. So what are your upsells from what you are initially selling? You'll probably only find that by going and actually out and talking to real people and seeing where they currently are in life. So what their goals are to get from where they're currently at to something in the future, and also that kind of pain point or that need where they're currently at. And then finally, in the future, what are some of those fears if they don't actually get that? And what are some of the dreams if they do? So you've kind of got, if you're picturing an axis of the timeline going on the x-axis, and then on the y-axis you've got positive and negative. So you've got kind of 4 quadrants, and it'd be really worth going out and talking to who your customers are and working out where they're at currently, what the future looks like, both in terms of positive and negative, and you're going to really find out what they want. Now, in terms of what you're selling, again, I would also be looking at that progression in a logical order. So when they purchase the burger, what's the next thing that they want? And you kind of want to have chips because they're delicious, and then you want to have a drink to wash it all down, and then once you've had that, you want to finish it off with a dessert. Like, this is nothing new. If you look at potatoes, half the world has lived on potatoes because they're super cheap. Like Russia, USSR are living on, millions of people living on potatoes. You look at a soft drink, all it is literally water, flavoring, sugar, and then just a ton of profit in there. So just looking at what that logical progression is to get whatever that person wants now currently and whatever they want in the future, and how can you speed that up or automate it or make getting that desired result much quicker or with less effort. In terms of how you're going to be selling, and how you communicate that. The main thing I really want you to think about is, what is your hook, or how are you different than everyone else out in the marketplace? So a really great book called The Blue Ocean Strategy, and it's really about creating a blue ocean in an ocean full of competitors where all the shark are eating all of the fish. So having thoughts about who your competitors are, what they are offering, and positioning yourself different to what they are putting out to the marketplace. So really having a look at what your competitors are doing, and competition is fine in my opinion. It means that people have a need and people are buying, but differentiating yourself from those people. But also when you differentiate them, make sure that there is a clear line in people's minds of what you offer compared to what they offer. So the next thing I would be looking at is the customer journey. So really smart guy named Eugene Schwartz wrote a book called Breakthrough Advertising. And in the Breakthrough Advertising book, he came up with a model called the market awareness model. And it goes through 5 stages. It goes through someone being unaware that they have a problem, then becoming aware that they have a problem. Then the third step is, once they're aware that they have a problem, being aware that there are actually solutions out there to create the change. And then the fourth step being, now that they know there are solutions, and obviously hopefully one of those solutions is yours, they become aware of that solution, and they become product aware, particularly of your solution. And then once they become product aware and they like your solution, then they become most aware, because they've got the solution and they're most aware of how it works, because obviously they're consuming it or using it. So within that model, you can't really go to most aware from unaware. There's a few exceptions or examples where you can do that, but a lot of people, before they actually buy from you, they've got to know that they have a problem. They need to know you can solve it. They need to like you, and then once they like you, they really need to trust you. And then when all of those factors are there, they're going to purchase. So what I would be really looking at is how that fits in with that kind of McDonald's example that I gave you. One of the easiest ways to get people to either know that they have a problem or know about you, even if they know they have a problem, is giving them some sort of revelation or some sort of notification. So that revelation could be getting them aware that they have a problem, and once they're aware that they have a problem, just notifying that, hey, you are someone that could potentially solve it. And in terms of getting them to like you, just helping them is a really good way for someone to like you. And once they like you, they need to trust you. And the way you build trust is you make a connection, and that connection lasts over a matter of time, and they are able to see that you make a promise, and then that you deliver on that promise, and you keep your promise, and then you repeat it over and over again, and that they can trust you. And that takes time, and that takes a relationship, and that takes connection. And then they are open to you selling what you are currently doing. So I really think about how you can get people to know they have a problem, know you, like you, and then trust you before you can go out and sell. And then basically on that point of selling, what I would be doing is going to people in real time. So not necessarily online or offline, but I wouldn't be automating this process, and I'd be going out and talking to people and trying to go through that whole process again, to know you, like you, and trust you, and then selling to them in person or online, but in real time. That way you can actually have a conversation with people. It doesn't matter if it's email or it's text or it's phone, or you go to a cafe, but at least you can have a conversation with them back and forth, two-way, so you can really work out what they respond to and what they don't respond to. Only at that point, then I would start automating things. I see that trap with a lot of people. They just go straight to automation. Unless you've been doing marketing sales for a long time, or you've been selling your product for a really long time, you may or may not know what is sticking and what is not, what some objections people have, and what some objections they do not have. And also really working out what they really, really want. And you can only really find that out through a real-time conversation. What I would also be doing while you're trying to go find those people to go sell to them is, I beg your pardon, while you're trying to sell to those people in person, it's really just going out and finding those people. And I'd really suggest go to your initial network, because they already know you, they already like you, and they trust you. But beyond that, really figuring out who has the problems that you're trying to solve currently, which I talked about before, but also in the future, and working out what the common denominators are in terms of their demographics, or who they are, where they're located, and so on. Their psychographics, so their interests and their beliefs, and then also the behaviors that they display based on those psychographics and those demographics. So really find out who those people are that could potentially use your solution. In other words, who has that problem currently now that they want to get out of, and has some dream to get to some different place in the future, that if they don't get, that they then potentially fear some implication of that. So really, that's probably all I have got off the top of my head, and I think, and I haven't been counting, but I believe we've got to 5, or the top 5 things that you asked for. So hopefully that helps. Go out and try it and see what happens.
Hello. I currently advertise and promote my business in many different ways. For example, my own website, on OTAs and Facebook, etc. And to add or support this mix, I also have adverts on Google Adwords. Whilst there is little doubt that their effectiveness is anything from fairly good to very good, they are also very expensive, especially when you take into account the cost of the company managing them as well. Is there some other way to achieve the same or similar results without the expense?
Fantastic question. So what I want you to do is listen to my answer I just gave to one of the previous calls about McDonald's and how they acquire customers for break even or just a tiny bit of profit, and then they upsell to make profit on the back end. So really what this is, comes down to an economic term called the fair value line. So the fair value line is the amount of value that you are offering is in proportion to the amount of money that you're charging. So if you're offering a ton of value to customers, the related price point for that is obviously very high. And if you're not offering a ton of value to a customer, then obviously the price point in relation to that is a little bit lower. So what I want you to think about is all of the possible things that you could offer this customer that's coming in. Now, they're obviously buying a product from you, and you're spending some money on paid media and also someone to manage that process. So there's a total cost for you. Now, I really want you to think about what that cost is and all of the other products that that person could buy from you. So, and I'm really just talking about every single product that could help them get the result that they want. Now, I'm not sure exactly which business you're currently in, but I want you to get out a bit of paper and just write down everything that could possibly help them get the result that they want, not just the product that you're currently selling them. Then I want you to plot that on a fair value line. So on one of the axes, let's just say the y-axis is how much value you're providing them, and on the x-axis, the related cost of that. And I want you to plot all of those different things that you could possibly offer them to help them either in terms of speed or automation to get that result, and plot it on that line and see where it all comes out. So then what I want you to do is your very, very expensive, the most expensive thing that you could offer them, and obviously that's probably going to be the most valuable thing. I want you to then start splintering or skimming off other components of that, getting down to something that's a little bit more cheaper. And hopefully that's where you align your current offering. So basically what I want you to be doing is thinking about getting that person, that customer in at cost, or maybe as a slight loss, as a loss leader, or just a slight profit. And then once they're in as a customer, then upselling them to higher, more valuable products that have a higher price point. That way you can spend a lot of money acquiring that customer, even though you're not going to make money off it initially, just like, you know, McDonald's or Hungry Jack's does, and then upselling them and making a profit there. Now, this takes a bit of creativity of all the types of things that could help them get that result, but I really want you to think about all of those things that will help them. The other thing is I want you to think about diversifying how you're actually getting your customers. Now, in your call, you said you had Facebook ads and, sorry, I beg your pardon, Google ads, and you're spending a lot of money on paid advertising and someone to go about managing that process. So there are a few different ways that you can communicate with customers and prospects. One of those is paid media. So paid media is something that you don't own, but you actually control it. So for example, Google Adwords, Google owns that network, but you control it by paying for it. The other way you can go about getting customers and prospects is through earned media. So you don't own it, nor do you control it. So really good examples of this are like PR and publicity, and also how you rank on Google. So you don't actually own any of those, and you don't actually control how and when you show up. It's all earned. And then finally, you've got your owned media. So all of the things that you control and you also own. So like you mentioned your website, but also communication channels like email and phone and text and messenger and all of these digital communication platforms. So I want you to be thinking about how you can move away from paid media into earned media. And then those two, so paid and earned media, how can you drive them towards owned media? So you're spending money with paid media and you're spending time and effort with earned media. How can you capture all of that attention and then put it into your own assets, the ones that you own and the control in your owned media, and then start communicating with people even before they become customers? So at the prospect stage, how you can communicate with them so they become customers without actually having to spend any more money. And in addition to that, once you've already captured them in your own media, how can you sell to them again and again? So hopefully those two things about really thinking about where you sit in the fair value line and how what you are currently spending can be an entry level solution or product or service. And then once you've got them converted from a prospect into a customer, how can you then upsell them and help them get whatever they're trying to get faster, cheaper, with more speed, or whatever adjective they want, and also make it more cost effective, but then also diversifying how you're getting those customers in terms of thinking about paid, earned and owned media, and pushing the former two into the latter, so you're not actually spending a lot of money in the long run. So hopefully that answers your question and helps, and try it out. Let me know what happens and see how you go.
Hey Orren, it's Dragos. Best of luck with the podcast. It sounds really exciting, and I've got a marketing question that I'm hoping you can help with. We've recently started Signature Board Games, and we've pretty much finished our first game called Flip and Fish. What we've decided to do is do a small print run instead of doing a Kickstarter or something like that, because we've got really good feedback from people who are basically saying, we want to buy this right now. We want to take advantage of that and sell a few copies and then reinvest that back in the business and possibly go down Kickstarter, etc. Later on. So the question is, once we print our first batch, which will be about 500, what's the most creative, or what are some ideas for us to market those either to shops or to clients in a creative way to try and get them out there, considering it's a very crowded market, and new designers with one game usually have a harder time getting noticed. Any thoughts, comments, feedback would be much appreciated. We've thought about things like partnering up outside of the industry, but yeah, anything else,
Hello, that is a great question, and I just want to congratulate you and applaud you. I've been following your journey, and I think what you've done and how you've taken action on this is phenomenal. And also that you're doing a small print run, especially for a physical product, is an amazing strategy, without going out and spending thousands of dollars and tons of your time and betting the farm in case this thing does or does not work. So doing a really small run is a really fantastic strategy. So big pats on the back for that. So I'm going to tackle your question with two different ways. I'm going to talk about what you're selling and then how you are selling it. So I really want you to think about what it is that you are selling. Now, you're going to a market where there are plenty of players and plenty of competing products. Now, that's not a bad thing, because consumers love what you're doing, and the industry's been around for a really long time, but which means that people are interested in purchasing what you have to offer. But because there's so much noise out there, I really want you to think about how you're going to position yourself amongst all of the competitors? What is it that you do, or what is it that your product does that stands out from everyone else? Now, in the PR and the publicity game, this is called a news anchor, or sorry, not a news anchor, a publicity angle, or a PR angle. So what is it that's going to jump out and hook people's attention because you are unique or different or better or faster than all of the other things that are on the market? Now, yeah, the product will solve that, but you have to break through all of the noise that's out there. So what is it that you're selling? Yes, it is a board game, but what is it that people are going to get out of it? But also, what is the thing that is going to grab their attention? Now, in terms of how you're selling, I want you to go back to the calls I recorded about the fair value line, and also how McDonald's acquires customers and makes a profit. And I want you to apply those two different ideas to what you're currently doing. Now, Cards Against Humanity does this in an interesting way, and that's the only thing that's coming to my mind on the spot, is that they do expansion packs for all of their cards. So you come in and you buy the game and you have a fantastic time, and usually board games are just a once-off purchase. Whereas Cards Against Humanity, they go out and do an expansion pack, and I think, and I understand, there's multiple expansion packs, so they're making a little bit more money from the beyond the initial product, but they're also providing value for that. Now, I look at all the board games that I played as kids and currently play, and we've got quite a few board games at a beach shack that I go to, and these things are made back in the 70s, so it was a once-off purchase, and we're just getting a ton of value out of that. However, you can go along and create more value than just the once-off purchase by creating the equivalent of what might be an expansion pack for Cards Against Humanity. So I really want you to think about that in terms of what you're selling. Now, in terms of how you're selling it. So you've had a look at like the fair value line and how McDonald's acquires their customers. We've got that kind of framework of strategy of different products at different price points, at different times through that customer journey. I also want you to think about what the sales message or the communication or the languaging that you're using for each of those stages. Now, it should come or be distilled or cascaded down from what you are talking about in terms of how you're differentiating yourself and how you are positioning yourself in the market. So all of that communication of each of those different stages within that product journey should come from how you are different. And then finally, once you've got the stages and then you've got what the messaging is, think about how you can go about acquiring customers. Now, I did speak to that briefly in one of the other calls around paid, earned, and owned media. So on the paid and earned side, I want you to think about all of the different ways you can pay for attention, and also all of the different ways that you can go out and earn attention, but not just spend all of your time doing that, seeing how you can convert that into owned media, where you capture all of that money you've spent and all of that time you spent. You've captured that into an asset that you can communicate that sales message to all of those prospects and customers as they go through that customer journey and they buy something of a small price point, that they get a small amount of value, and then the equivalent of the expansion packs as they go on. So now, in terms of partners and how you can go out about creating partnerships, the first stage is actually going out and finding as many partners as you can that are related to you but not direct competitors. Now, these are going to be distributors for you, so this shouldn't be a really difficult task to do, is going out and finding out about who all those distributors are, both online and then offline. And then once you've done that, once you've found those distributors, what is it that they want, or what is it that they are motivated by, and really finding out that and doing some exploration into what they want, and then being able to go out and then provide that for them. So going out and helping them get whatever they want just before you go out and ask them to promote your game. So those 4 stages are really, really important to go out and find partners that are going to be behind your cause and be able to go out and promote what you're doing. So I really hope that helps. Try it out. Let me know what happens. And thanks for your question. Thanks for listening. And if you've got a marketing or sales question, please record it, send it to me, and I'll answer it for you for free. And if you like what was on here and want more, please go to orrenprunckun.com.